Hey viewers, Hexcraft here. Before we get started, simply put, yes, this is not the normal League content I do, because I'm playing a lot of Swarm on the PvE, and yeah, I've had two major thoughts come to mind. One, this game mode has been really fun and enjoyable and great, and second, I didn't know what I was doing for most of it, because I've never played a Bullet Heaven game, so I decided to make a quick little rundown guide on the game and give out as much detail as I can, but not explain the game and tell you how to play it. I will give some recommendations here and there, but overall, this is just for people who have never played games like this. So, more so for people who have not played Vampire Survivors, more for the average League player. We can call it a quick little noob's guide. Never mind, that's taken. A craps guide. No, that's also taken. Let's just call it a hex guide. Fuck you, editor. Anyway, let's get into it. First off, let's start with the main menu. The button with your username on it, and a champ's name, is where you're going to select your champ. Each plays differently, but is really powerful in their own way. First off, only will have two though. Jinx, an ADC that is really good focus damage and can burst down tanks and bosses, and Seraphine, who is a support. Support as she does give a shield and movement to her and her allies, but she also can clear the map. Not just with her bolt clearing ability, but also her normal weapon too, once she gets going. She, just like in normal game, is a very powerful mage when built that way. So yeah. However, to unlock the rest of them, you're gonna have to do some objectives. We'll talk about those in a second. To unlock Leona and Lilawi, you're gonna have to upgrade weapons. To unlock Briar and Yasuo, you're gonna have to beat certain maps. And the last three, you have to beat the entire story mode and get into hard mode to get those. Riven, you have to beat map 1 on hard mode, or just buy the pass to unlock her instantly. Aurora, you have to defeat 25 mini-bosses on hard mode, which isn't too bad at this point probably, for the person playing. And Zaya, you have to complete 20 Belbeth trials on hard mode, which we'll talk about those later. And yes, each gets stronger and stronger at what they do, because at first I thought, oh, clearly Seraphine is the strongest. Supporting, self-shielding, and able to clear? That's great. And then I got Leona, who also has shielding, a harder area denial. I was like, that's amazing. Now, Lilawi has extreme area denial with her tentacles. Riven basically can just plap the entire map. Briar has self-heal and great burst. Yasuo literally is what Yasuo mains see themselves as. So yeah, all of them are great, and all of them have been fun to play. So again, swap and mix as you choose. Furthermore, moving on to the rest of the main menu, you'll also notice that you can pick to have 3 friends with you at a time. Keep in mind that there is no, I'm gonna pick this one so you guys can't, because if you want, you could have all Leonas tanking, all Seraphines supporting each other, or all Yasuos feeding mid lane. The combinations are very much there, and you can play as you want with your friends. Alternatively, you cannot open matchmaking until you beat story mode, so don't worry about randoms. At the same time, last things we have to talk about is objectives and upgrades. Objectives are very much just the missions in the game to help you unlock things like set of champions, certain upgrade items, weapons, in-game stats, and some extra gold. What is gold for? Well, gold's a resource you gather in-game, which is used to buy upgrades. Upgrades are basically these flat skills you spend gold on, and they give you these buffs while you play, meaning every time you upgrade it and go back into a game, you will have more of those stats than you did last time. They do not go away, they're here for the entirety of the game mode. Case in point, you can get more ability haste, armor, HP, damage, projectile count, duration of certain abilities, so on and so forth. I do recommend trying to upgrade your gold and XP gain, mainly because XP-wise, once you've upgraded all your abilities, weapons, and such, you can only pick from 2 options when you level up, getting health or getting gold. I recommend this because every time you level up, then after, you get that same option again, gold or XP. Such is a great style of the game. As you get more XP, you get more gold, so on and so forth, which lets you buy more upgrades. I do also recommend getting regen because you do not have natural regen when you first play the game. You need to get that as an ability. So yeah, it is very good, especially late game when you're gonna probably have to run through a horde of enemies. Now with the menu out of the way, let's talk about in-game, which starts off with the fact that this game does not play like normal League. You probably heard this already by many of the people talking about the game mode, but you move around with WASD. Your basic ability is your E, and your R is your ultimate still. This kind of felt weird at first, but I got used to it very quickly. And when it comes to where your weapons aim, for the weapons you gain as you level up, those will be set to randomly fire in their own way. However, the weapon you start with, you have somewhat control over. Not firing, that is, but where it's aiming. Automatically, the game is set to have auto aim on, which will aim at the closest enemy, and due to the fact of range and such, has a chance of missing. But if you press C, you can turn that off, and it will follow where your cursor is, which again has a chance of missing because of range. But still, it gives you a bit more practical use of how you want to target your ability. I do recommend free aiming a bit at the beginning of games. However, as you get to later in the level, I recommend turning back on auto aim. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a game of Where's Waldo with your cursor. As is normal with bullet-heavy games, as you kill enemies, they'll drop XP balls. These range from blue, purple, and gold, each giving more XP. Each time you level up, you'll be able to pick from 3 options of stat or weapons. These are very much as is, but later on, you'll be able to get rerolls actually, so you can be more precise with your build partially. But for now, you'll have to pick from just those 3. Weapons and stats sort of work together in ways. Weapons are used basically to fire off based off their cooldowns and such. Stats actually give you just straight up bonuses, so more damage, more cooldown, more movement, so on. Each weapon has a corresponding stat they work with. If you have said stat, you can evolve your weapon. Evolving really much ups the weapon entirely. For instance, normally Jinx has a minigun that just does some really good damage. However, evolved, it is a rainbow death gun. You really want to try to evolve as many of your weapons as you can, and it is going to be a bit difficult. First off, you need to get your weapon upgraded to level 5 first, and then you're going to need to pick up one of the upgrade cards. These are only dropped by elite enemies, mini-bosses, and the Belbeth trials. You want to try to plan a bit ahead of the randomness and such, due to the fact that sometimes you will think, oh, more damage is great. I want this more damage so that my weapons I have currently do more. And then you'll find out that none of your weapons actually evolve based off damage, and they actually would have done more damage in total if you evolved them. So yeah, keep that in mind a bit while you're doing it. Lastly, though, I need to mention that when it comes to weapons and stats, you only have a set number. You can have a total of 5 weapons, that including the one you start with, your champion, and you can have up to 4 stats at the beginning. However, in hard mode, you can get upgrades to let you get up to 6 stats. So yeah, again, mix match where you want. It all works out in the end though. Sorta, maybe. By the by, don't have to worry too much about thinking about what goes with what, because once you unlock a weapon or a stat, when you roll the corresponding weapon or stat to the other, you will actually see an image below it saying that this corresponds with this. So for example, if you get HP total, you will see the HP weapon that you could get that corresponds with said stat. And if you are wanting to plan extra ahead, if you actually hold tab on the left side, you'll see the entire list showing you of all weapons and stats. And yes, that can be confusing at first because you won't really know what some of those weapons are or what is what, because those weapons are also champ abilities. So yeah, keep that in mind. Next, let's talk about the big things you do during the missions. These being Yumi missions, Belbeth trials, and Battle Bunny boons. Yumi missions are very much simple missions that you complete objectives to get these really strong buffs, such as a movement speed buff that goes off of how much ability haste you have, healing whenever you pick up gold coins, a decrease in your pickup range, but a vacuum effect occurring every so often, and so on and so forth. These can be really game-changing and really good. These missions are not too hard as long as you're not being extremely swarmed and bogged down by enemies. There are things such as catch the laser, break a vase, run to this point, push a yarn ball, play soccer, cat stuff. Nothing too hard again, as long as you're not being overrun. Belbeth trials, however, are a bit more dangerous and difficult. These will give you a level card, but also a ton of XP and gold when you beat them, of course. And the trials do range from stuff like spawns a mini-boss for you to fight, stay within an area while there's projectiles dropping upon you, get shrunk down stat-wise and such, and easier to kill. Very much a mix. Hell, even Nocturne's darkness is one of these effects that can occur. As long as you survive, you get the rewards. And again, they're only really bad if you aren't able to handle the hordes of enemies that are already attacking you. I don't recommend doing these trials or missions if you are being swarmed. Focus on survive more than that. Lastly, we have the Battle Bunny boons, which these are perks that don't really have a downside. Again, unless you're running into a horde of enemies to pick it up, they don't really have a downside. I would say maybe the only thing is the fact that these don't wait there for you. They have a timer on it that will cause them to disappear. I don't know if Belbeth trials or Yumi missions have the timer, because I've been able to get to them all the time, or I die trying, but I know the Battle Bunnies do disappear as boons. These boons are extreme game changers. They give you a ton of movement, a ton of ability haste, life steal, gold on kills, and of course, the best one of all, the bunny tank, which lets you just run around in a tank vehicle, you take no damage, and you just kill anything you run into. These are great boons that are always good, and if you can time it right, time it to pick it up around the time of you going to do, say, a Belbeth trial or fight an actual spawning mini-boss, and you can sometimes cakewalk that thing. And finally, the last thing we need to talk about really is something I should have probably started with actually thinking about it, and that being the maps. Not going into too much detail on certain parts of the maps, but the maps in general are Warehouse District, which gives you a healing station that after being used, it will go on cooldown. The Outskirts, which gives you a cannon that you need to fill with an ammo piece for it to fire off at enemies. Subterranean Labs, which give you freeze bombs, which after being activated, go on cooldown. And the Beachhead, which gives you Misfortune, actually. Yeah, she very much can do a lot of the early game work there for you, so be careful not to rely on her too much. Each of these areas, though, do have their own final boss, which will occur at 15 minutes. These in their own right have their own abilities and such, and honestly, I've had a lot of fun fighting each of them. Mechanic-wise, I think they're extremely cool and probably, again, the best highlight of the entire thing. They're fun and enjoyable to fight, except the lab boss, but that's because of a gimmick at the beginning that was getting me fucked over. I believe that was a glitch. I believe it was fixed because I've not seen it happen yet since then. So, for now, I will not judge. And finally, the thing to mention is that on each map, you'll see these boxes everywhere. Breaking them drop either a health pack, some gold, or a rainbow ball that will vacuum up all XP and gold on the map at that time. I recommend trying to break as many boxes as you can to fill the ground with gold, so that when you do vacuum it up, you get a large sum as it goes. To my knowledge, the only thing that disappears off the map are health packs and balls of rainbow if you don't pick them up right away. Otherwise, gold and XP stays there, I believe. I have not been proven this yet being wrong, so I cannot be truly responsible or smart in saying this. But yeah. Overall, though, that's really all I can say about the game mode. It's been a real fun and enjoyable one, and I do hope this video somewhat helps you out, or you at least enjoyed watching. If you did, leave a like and share if you will. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.